Hey, what's going on? It's Austin here with the Upswing Report. If you've never been to the channel, we're all about business, fashion, and lifestyle tips for those of us on the upswing. And whether you're going through something that's bad or you're going through something that's good in terms of the period that you're at in your life, you should always be trying to go and get that mindset where you're trying to improve and improve and improve. That's what the upswing mentality is all about. So I got my buddy Michael here just for you guys on the channel today. He's got an amazing story and I think you guys are really going to enjoy it and hopefully find it to be inspirational so that if you're going through something similar, you can use it as mental ammunition to go after whatever you want to go after. So Michael, you want to just kind of give a little quick background of yourself, who you are, where you grew up?
Yeah, my name is Michael and I grew up around here. We're in like the suburbs of Detroit. So for the last couple of years, I've been striving to be my best self. Graduated college in 2015, December. I turned about 24 then. So, and when I was...
What did you study in school?
I studied business. I studied supply chain, which is managing inventory and stuff. But at the time, I thought it was like more working with engineers.
Okay.
And I always liked cars, and I thought that was interesting. But, you know, so I went into supply chain, hoping I'd work with engineers, be really close to cars and stuff, but I noticed it was more closer to inventory management. And
okay, interesting.
Yeah.
And then when you graduated, you did exactly what you do.
So when I was in my senior year of college, I had this belief to myself that I thought maybe America isn't the best place, and I thought maybe I would be happier living in Australia.
Okay.
So a month after I graduated, I started traveling. I didn't study abroad, and I always wanted to, but I never had the chance. And so I went, for 1 month, I thought I'd go to India. And I thought if I could just stay there for a month, be on my own, that, you know, maybe that's proof to myself that I can, like, be out there on my own.
Okay.
And so I went there, and then doors opened, and I was able to actually get to Australia. And I had the chance to see for myself, you know, if what I thought was actually true.
So you were in India for how long exactly?
I planned to be there for a month, but then I skipped all my flights home and I was there for about 3 months.
Oh dang. And then you went from there, not back to the US, but you went to Australia.
No, I actually went to Thailand for another month.
Okay.
And then from Thailand, when I was in Bangkok, I actually applied for my visa online for Australia. And I got a 1-year working visa there to Australia.
So, quick, just backing up a little bit, because if you're graduating college, you know, other people out there might be like, oh, I would love to travel, but, you know, I got student loans, I got, you know, these things that are impending in the air. What would you give recommendation-wise for someone that's maybe looking to travel in terms of, like, saving up, how much, like, they would be wanting to plan for that?
Yeah.
Any tips on that?
Yeah, of course. I would highly recommend getting a working visa in like Australia, New Zealand, or South Korea. If you do that, then chances are you'll bring back more money than originally you even paid. The other tip I have is start somewhere that's inexpensive to live. When I went to India, I mean, $50, $100 goes a long way. And so I was able to acclimate for the first 2 weeks to being alone, being, you know, on my own, and being not at home. And that helped me, like, you know, get comfortable while not spending too much money, and I was able to, like, go from there.
When you went to India, did you, like, just stay in hostels initially, or was it like? Because
it was affordable, originally I stayed in hotels. I was culture shocked, balling, like 4 or 5 star hotels, easily $50 a night. It was great.
It's like cheaper than Airbnb.
Service was fantastic. You know, everything I needed was met. I really thoroughly enjoyed it. But once 2 weeks passed, I was looking for more.
And where in India did you initially go?
I initially went to Mumbai, but I actually went all over India. I went to Mumbai to, then I went from Mumbai to Hyderabad to Bangalore to Mysore to Goa and then to Chennai. I pretty much did a half circle around the southern half, and it was really interesting. It was great, and I met some really amazing people, including a girl I dated for a while, who then asked me if I wanted to go with her to even Australia. And just like that, the door opened for me.
Wow.
And it worked out really, really well. And I learned a lot about myself.
So you kind of jumped off the cliff. You'd say if somebody wants to do that, in your opinion, you'd say get your working visa and just kind of like go for it, or like. In
my opinion, I would say go somewhere inexpensive and have any reason to go.
Okay.
Go there, acclimate, and then from there, decide where you want to go and like stay to work.
Because it's easier because you already pulled the trigger, basically.
Yeah, it's easier. You're there. You get to like really. You'll have time to like think about things while you're gone, and also you'll be able to like get your finances in check. You know, when you're over there in Asia, like across the ocean, all of a sudden flights are cheaper. You have different options. You'll meet new people who might want to invite you to go with them.
Yeah, man.
And so, I found when I was traveling, I loved not having a plan. I would wake up. Or I would just have like, I guess, short-term ideas of where I wanted to go. I would book tickets to flights maybe sometimes that day, maybe the day before. Altogether, I missed a few flights actually on purpose because my plan had shifted.
Nice.
So yeah, my tip is travel with a plan. Don't be afraid to get a working visa. Get all your money back that you spent. Pocket more money and include the people who you meet with you. You never know what's possible.
For sure.
Yeah.
So from the point you left U.S. soil to getting to Australia and then coming back, how long was that?
I originally planned a month. I was gone for almost a year and a half.
Wow.
Yeah. So
That's intense.
It was really amazing. So you were asking me, from India, did you go to Australia? I went to Thailand, and from there I went to Australia.
Okay.
And from there I just spent a lot of time in the library, applying for every job I possibly could. And jobs started to open up, and in 1 year I worked 5 different jobs ranging in many, like they ranged a lot, and even getting a corporate job for 6 months managing inventory. I used my college degree for a period of time. My Australia visa limits you to only working for 6 months for someone, so I worked that full 6 months for Scott Sports. Have you heard of Scott? Maybe, right? They make they have goggles and bicycles, it's a Swiss company.
Yeah, I've seen that.
It's all caps, SCOTT. That was interesting.
Nice.
And I worked in Melbourne for them, and I did all kinds of stuff.
So you did a lot of just kind of odd jobs in a sense. I mean, not odd, but like
some of them were odd, actually.
Okay. So you worked when you're over there. You stacked the money up, and then you felt like you said you came there with less money than you left with, which is awesome, right?
Yeah, I spent not very much money. Oftentimes people like we would meet, they would let us stay with them for free. And then I was just extremely resourceful too. You learn how to be resourceful.
Okay. And then, and this is kind of like how we met, Michael and I met.
Yeah.
We went, like I live right downtown, like the suburb of Detroit. It's called Northville. And I saw him reading a book just in this town center square just one summer day, and it's called The $100 Startup, right? I think.
Yeah.
It's a book on
with a bicycle on the front cover, I believe.
Bicycle on the front cover.
Yeah.
And I literally just like for whatever reason went over to him and I was like, "What's up, man? Like, are you an entrepreneur?" Because you never know. And then we kind of started talking, blah blah blah. And now it's like crazy because we're sitting here, doing this thing, but it all comes from conversation of saying hello. But from the point where you came back to the U.S., you had that work experience and been compensated for it and had the money in the bank and whatnot.
Yeah.
All that experience. What point was that when we had met? How long had you been back? Like a couple months at that point?
Maybe about. I think you and I probably met late summer, July.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And at that point, I'd probably been back a month.
Okay, right on.
I'd just come back. I was like looking to continue, and also spending time reading. So
sure.
I just weaned off that big trip.
And this a lot of this is like about what I want to get to is like your very impressive and inspiring story for law school. So when you were traveling, did you know when you came back that you maybe wanted to apply to law school, or was that something that came back after you were sitting around like contemplating, like reading, kind of going through all that? When did you decide that you wanted to go for law school?
So prior to graduating college, I had the supply chain degree, worked briefly in that field, and I just gave myself a hint that maybe I would like to pursue law school, but I didn't know much more about it. Didn't know anything, didn't ask any questions, didn't research. anything about it. And after we met briefly, I started applying to jobs in my field, and I thought to myself, in 10 years' time, will I really be happy with this, degree and just spending time in this field working for a company managing inventory? And I didn't think so. And so I started to pursue law school, and to my surprise, it was much more difficult than I initially had thought. Also, I wasn't conditioned really in the beginning to pursue such a feat.
But even in the beginning, like I remember you were like, sometimes we were like kind of trying to text back and forth or whatever to meet up.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I'm like studying and doing all this prep and like going through. I think the first time, I can't remember exact numbers, but it was like, oh yeah, I went through like 10 or 15 different LSAT, like, it's not study guides, but actual tests or whatever, and they give you them in the review packets or whatever.
I did many of them. Originally, I just kept doing them, and I thought, like everything else, repetition will make you better.
Yeah.
But that wasn't the case with this particular exam.
Okay.
And so in the beginning, I did a lot, and I just kept making the same mistakes. And soon my first LSAT came, and I did poorly, very poorly. Not really good enough to get into any college except for a college called Cooley, which is not where I'd like to go.
Okay.
So I wanted something a little bit more challenging, like a place that had a little bit more opportunities once you graduate.
Yeah.
And so I just kept working at it.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so I do remember, and I worked quite hard altogether. I've done many of them, and I learned to disconnect from my failures. Okay. So what happened was all those tests, I started to look at, conceptually, why did I get these things wrong?
Mm-hmm.
Simultaneously, you ask yourself, like, if you're like me, you think that sometimes, I thought in the past that the result of what I did was a reflection of who I was. Ooh. And I learned that's not true. And I learned that they're very separate, actually.
Yeah,
and
sure, dude.
By me not doing well on those tests didn't mean anything other than I had room to improve.
Yeah, dude.
And so
growth mindset.
Yeah, there was no other way around it. Repetition wasn't working.
So what was you said you conceptualized things. What did that mean, like, in terms of, like, if somebody's out there, which, side note, and I could, real quick here.
Yeah.
I haven't shared this on the channel, but I want to share this. I was homeschooled, okay? So I didn't really learn much about, like, standardized tests. I think when I was a freaking sophomore in high school, I learned about the SAT and ACT. Like, I really didn't fully understand it, which is something that I should have. But I literally got I think the first time I took the ACT, I got a 23, which is, it's not terrible. Like, I think 21 is average. But I wanted to go to the University of Michigan. So I busted my butt. I, like, got the study kits. I did all that stuff. But I never improved, hardly. I got a 24 on my ACT. That being said, I still hustled. Yeah. I went in. I met the admissions counselor for homeschoolers. Shook her hand.
Wow.
I had some college credits that helped me get into University of Michigan because I had a pretty good. I was able to take college classes at the community college when I was still in high school. Yeah. I had a 24 on my ACT. I ended up getting a scholarship to go there. All these ups and downs. Maybe I'll share it a little bit more in some other video. But that being said, I never felt like I was more like repetition, and like doing the same thing. But I never got to the point where, and I don't know if you want to share your numbers exactly, but like, you freaking got to the 85th percentile, right?
Yeah, I did quite well. It's very surprising to most law schools I speak to. The first test I got, I received a 144 at 23rd percentile, meaning that many people did better than I did. I did better than 23% of students in a 3-year span. So
you're in the 23rd
percentile. Yeah.
You freaking jumped up to
85th in a 3-year span.
Gang.
And
that's what we call upswing, bro.
It was amazing, and I worked very hard. And the people who take this exam often are well studied and very well read people. So I'm very proud of myself to have a score of that nature.
Okay, so just so that like people can maybe take away some stuff in terms of like, you said you repetition didn't work. You were kind of slamming your head in the wall. It sounds like
Yeah.
You were doing the work, but you weren't getting the results. So what shifted to have that conceptualization happen, where you were able to improve your score?
I really in my own head, one thing that happened was I believed in myself. I thought, I have to do this. Like, I just knew I could do it. And I took this test 3 times. And the second test, I jumped from a 23rd to a 67th percentile, but I knew there was still more points on the table.
Dude, that's a big jump right there, though.
12 points is really big on that particular test. Oftentimes I hear the maximum a lot of people hear is like around 8, and I surpassed that with 4 more, which on the percentage scale is pretty substantial.
So you attribute that to, like, initially when you were practicing the exams, you were doubting yourself when you were practicing them?
Extremely much so.
Okay.
I was doing them, I was getting many wrong. I remember doing sections and getting a lot of them wrong, and I thought to myself, this is who I am. I can't do this, and then that mindset shifted.
Do you think that by going through them that many times, though, it made that mind shift easier to happen because you had all those, under your belt?
No, I don't think so. I think what helped me change that change my mindset was I started to ask people who also took the LSAT and people who actually scored high, who did score high.
How'd you find those people?
Just through my search, I would call, universities. I'd call like study centers. I'll help you study.
Nice.
And I got one private tutor session too with a guy who scored really well in the LSAT. And I noticed I was picking up very hard questions, and I noticed even he was making mistakes. And all of a sudden, it became, I realized it became real to me that even people who I perceived to be good still made mistakes. So all of a sudden, it became a possibility for me to do well.
So being around the people that have done well, you realize like that they make the same mistakes that you might be making, and instead of basically pegging those mistakes as like, on you, where your mindset's like negative, you now shifted to say, they're gonna make mistakes, I'm gonna make mistakes, but that being said, if they can do it, then you can do it too.
Yeah,
is that kind of what you felt like you got?
Sort of. Yeah, I would say very much so. It was like, it seemed like it showed me mistakes are okay. And it showed me that this is in fact possible. These people learned, I can learn, and it was just really nice. I mean, before it seemed out of my reach to score, the score I did, for example.
When you said you felt like you learned, though, what was it that you learned?
I learned that I learned a lot of things, a number of things, but
was it just because I know you said initially you weren't believing in yourself, so you may have been psyching yourself out and not being clear-headed when you're taking the exam.
Yeah.
But learning stuff, would you just say it's literally looking back at things objectively? What else would you have learned other than the mindset shift, or would you attribute it to wholly that?
Yeah, the mindset shift is huge. Just not pegging the result of your test to be any indicator of myself. I know it's just a statement, but me disconnecting my worth from that was enormous. I mean, originally when I first started taking it, I guess I was taking the test with a lot more emotion.
Okay.
And it disconnected my emotional fear and stuff from the test, and it allowed me to see the test for what it was.
Nice.
Which was just, these questions, and it didn't represent more than that. It didn't represent my shortcomings or what I wish I was or anything like that.
Right.
And so that was huge for me, and of course I learned more about the concepts. I picked up more books at the library. I would spend time I still did repetition and all that stuff, but that mindset was enormous for me. So it allowed me to focus on my exam, and it gave me hope. It gave me hope, and that hope is what I took to jump 12 points and then grab another 6 to then score a 162, which is getting the recognition of universities, which I applied to.
So you started, what was the low score?
I started at 144 at a 23rd percentile.
And then you went to?
A 162.
Which is?
At 85th percentile.
85th.
Yeah.
And?
Enormous.
Do you want to share
wow.
what you've gotten back in terms of your applications?
My offers?
Yeah.
Yes. To my surprise, I in my undergrad and stuff, I didn't really, I wasn't really, never thought I would be someone who might get full ride scholarships, but I've applied to 5 places and 2 of them so far, the only 2 that have responded to me have been full rides. And I'm excited. It's nice to know that I can focus more on my career and not have to take on so much debt. So very exciting.
It's so beautiful. I mean, so he told me this, I knew from the beginning when you first took the LSAT, and just knowing like how tough it was. I've heard all the time, like taking the MCAT, LSAT, all those like basically post-grad exams, like it's basically the ACT, SAT, which brought me a lot of stress. Taking it like to that level would just, for me, I do not want to do that. Yeah. So seeing you go through that, and then randomly we ran into each other in the gym a couple of weeks ago. Yeah. And I was like, you told me that because I knew you were still going at it, and just hearing the improvement, I was like, dude, I definitely want to get you on the channel and give an interview so that anybody else that's out there could use this as hopeful inspiration. So that's the cool thing about this on YouTube. You were able to get out of your head and call people up and make it happen, where you met up with people and you talk with them in person, and you realize that. And I'm not saying that anybody out there shouldn't do that themselves, but this recording hopefully will give that to many, many, many people that are going through that. Oh shoot, I didn't get as good of a score on my LSAT that I wanted to, or any other test score. Yeah,
don't let a failure stop you in your tracks. If anything, don't let it mean anything. Just if that's what you want, you keep going.
Dude, that's so awesome.
And you never know. I mean, all of a sudden now I'm receiving offers that still I'm surprised to this day. I mean, it's just very surprising, to me at least, and I'm just very excited.
Dude.
And hard work pays off, right?
Yeah, heck yeah. And you had grit. You had grit to go through and not just slam your head on the wall, but like you strategized too. Like you took your head out of the sand and looked around, met people, and you realized like you can do it too. And like
with grit, I've had the best 3 years of my life, and now being here with you, sitting next to you, I can finally see. I can see that. I mean, from traveling the world in Australia, I said I got 5 jobs. It took me 500 applications to get a corporate job. I did construction. I got a job with a circus. I drove 2,000 miles across Australia with a circus. That was the hardest job I ever had. Wow. And then I started a business in Australia and hiring myself to do more construction, where I was hired by, like a number of people. And then I hitchhiked from Sydney to Melbourne, Australia. And I rode a bicycle 2.5 hours in a suit and got a corporate job. And oh my God.
500 applications, dude.
Maybe more.
So, I mean, that just shows like you have an affinity for grit. Have you always kind of been that way, where you are just kind of keep on going until you're dead, basically? Everything has a different kind of reaction to me. There's certain things I like, and to those things that I do enjoy or have aspirations for, you have to make it work. Right.
It's on you, There's a way, you just have to find it. And you can't let failure stop you. But I would say with most things that interest me, sure. If you're a passionate person, you're passionate, I think, generally in your life. And grit is what makes it happen. Things don't get handed to you. I mean, sometimes they do, but...
Was there anything that with the 500 applications that you did differently for those ones that went through and you did get the offers? Or was it just kind of like repetition on that?
Mostly it was probably the majority was repetition, and then also towards the end, once I would get a lead, I wouldn't let it slip.
Okay.
I would call repeatedly. My! Not only would I follow up, I would pretty much knock on the door.
Drive bicycle 2.5 hours in a suit to get the job.
To get a job, yeah. And then you want to hear, so I worked 6 months for that company. Left Friday. By Monday, I was an exterior painter. I just got another job on the internet.
Hard in the paint.
I met this man, and he needed help, and I was happy to be able to help him. So it was fantastic.
Hey man, by any means necessary, dude.
Yeah.
So did you want to, I guess, share anybody specifically going back to with the LSAT or any other kind of graduate entry degree or test? Do you have any other like last bits that you want to share, to the people out there in Upswing Nation?
you gotta be motivated. And when you're motivated, if you have a goal, then just by making the effort and looking at things objectively, something like the LSAT, these obstacles, they're made by someone, there's a certain way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can take yourself out of the equation, not blame yourself for your faults, and just decide to learn, how to do this, and maybe understand the test writer's perspective.
Sure.
Speak to others who also have challenges, or not give up on yourself, then you'll open doors. You'll at least achieve the results, and then be able to open doors or get other people's attention through the results that you did from grit. If I had stopped Austin at that first test, we would never be sitting here.
Right, dude.
I remember calling my first university, my prospective university, telling them that score, and then politely telling me that this was simply too low for them.
Wow.
And I could have just stopped there, and I almost did. But I owed it to myself. You owe it to yourself.
Yeah.
You owe it to yourself to go to just do your best.
And now to others, because I guarantee there's people going to be watching this.
Yeah.
And if you gave up, you would have given up on them. Now you're able to inspire other people to go out there and do it. And everyone out there, if you give up on yourself, not only are you giving up on yourself, then you're giving out on everyone else out there too that's going to be inspired or get value from whatever you're doing in life. So, no, I think this was really helpful, super inspiring for me, and just kind of seeing that whole journey. It was amazing to hear that the other week when you mentioned that at the gym. I was so happy for you, dude, and I am happy for you. So much respect.
Thank you very much.
Grinding it out, figuring it out, not just keep on doing the same thing. What do they say is the definition of insanity is the same thing over and over again. You didn't do that, but at the same time you did continue moving forward and you figured it out. You evolved and made it happen. So it's freaking awesome, bro.
Yeah. You just can't blame yourself. Ask why and expect results. Oh my gosh, I'm so proud of myself.
Dude, I'm so proud of you too, bro. You should be proud of yourself. That's awesome, man.
And I don't necessarily even have the best GPA. And, at one end, when I was an undergrad,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really think about the future so much. I had a pretty decent GPA, but I never really rolled up my sleeves and worked for the grade I probably could have gotten.
Because you didn't probably have the plan of going to law school. You were thinking about doing logistics or whatnot in undergrad, right? Just continuing forward with that, you probably didn't need that high of a GPA per se.
Yeah, that's right. I had other interests. I wasn't thinking long term. But my point is that even with a GPA that isn't as competitive as other people,
Mm-hmm.
see, an opportunity is never fully gone.
Right.
In most cases. And so I think at any point in your life, if you decide to turn the tables and change something and work towards something, that no matter your past, you'll be able to make great results and achieve what you want.
Yeah.
Regardless.
Yeah, man. I mean, going back to my ACT score, I had 24. I ended up getting into Michigan and getting a scholarship. And even from there, I applied to the business school. I didn't get in the first time, and I reapplied the second time.
Wow.
And my initial scholarship, they were giving it to me to go to Michigan State, which is a great school, but I wanted to go to University of Michigan. So I had the scholarship transferred. It was a whole, a whole journey.
That's awesome.
All's well that ends well, as they say.
That is amazing.
Dude, just trying to get like you, bro. So, to kind of end the interview here, Michael, if people wanted to reach out to you, maybe ask you for any insights on travel or just stuff in general with maybe some of these exams and whatnot, where would they be able to find you and reach you?
Email is fantastic. I know it's a little bit old school, but just my first name, Michael Urandi, YARANDI @gmail.com. So if you send me an email, I'll gladly write you back, and that would be the best way to reach me. So, and I'm quite open. So if you ever want to share your story with me or have any questions about the LSAT or about travel, I'd be happy to give you some of my perspective.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for coming on here and sharing, giving hopeful inspiration to you guys out there and hope.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, I think this is gonna be an awesome interview for everybody out there. So I appreciate your time, dude.
Yeah, I appreciate yours, and thanks for letting me, even realize how much I've accomplished. Things happen, you don't really look back and say, hey, I did that. And this definitely gives me a chance to see that I really did accomplish something.
Dude, heck yeah, you did.
And we're moving forward from there.
Dude,
so.
Well, I'm glad to have seen that and be inspired by you, and that it's just like an amazing, everything came full circle with it. So I'm happy.
Yeah,
That's
thanks.
awesome.
I am too. Oh, thanks so much.
Dude, heck yeah. All right, everybody. We'll catch you in the next one. Hope you enjoyed this one. See you later on. Adios. Bye-bye.